Hey everybody, it's Johnny from the Beers and the Lot podcast. Welcome to episode 14. We have a really great show today. We're talking with Ryan Minkoff, former Minnesota youth hockey player who turns into a published author. How do you get to that path? We'll dig into that. Don't forget to tell all your teammates, friends, everybody about the podcast. All right, let's go.
All right, guys. Let's have a beer. What do you say?
All right.
I got a good one tonight. I'm going to start myself out.
Treat yourself, Aaron. Treat yourself. What you
I
got?
just picked this up today, actually. This is a Guinness Baltimore Blonde.
Oh, yeah.
Brewed in Baltimore.
Yeah, right near BWI.
Yep.
This is tasty.
You can see the brewery when you're driving by the airport.
Open Gate Brewery.
Yep.
It's good stuff.
At night,
Nice.
It's all lit up. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It looks like
Looks
a
like a
nice
mecca.
building. Yeah, I haven't been in there yet, but it looks nice.
How about you, John? What do you got?
I have a Red Shedman, which is right down the street from me. Red Shedman Brewery, and I have the coconut porter. I'm a porter enthusiast, and I also
Don't-
like coconut. So
Don't be shy. Show the can.
yeah,
Ooh,
Hmm.
coconut porter?
They can't see it on the
Ah.
podcast.
they can't see it.
I
but
can see it though.
Anyone is more than welcome to go to your local, probably local as in Frederick County.
Hyper local.
Yeah, hyper
Yeah,
local.
yeah, hyper local.
Frederick County beer store, and pick yourself up one if you like it. Danny, what are you drinking this evening, sir?
I got Flame Wizard by Black Flag Brewing Company. Let me tell you, it is delicious.
Show me that can. Show me that can.
What a can. For the folks at home, it's a heck
Yeah,
of a can.
it's a delightful can.
It's a great can.
You guys would love it if you could see it.
What do you got, Rigo?
So I too have a Black Flag Brewing Company out of Columbia, Maryland product.
Excellent.
It is called Hardy Daytona. It's a West Coast IPA. The can art, not as good as the Flaming Wizard, but I think they're going on like a Harley Davidson kind of theme here. It's got a motorcycle on it, and the word art is very much like the Harley Davidson logo. Hopefully they don't get in trouble.
Well, we'll let the art slide as long as the beer is good.
But it's pretty good. It's very clean, very crisp. Definitely a West Coast IPA.
Nice.
Yeah. So guys, I guess we have a special guest, Ryan Minkoff, who was a Minnesota high school hockey player who ended up at the University of Washington playing college club hockey, which then turned into a European pro career in one of the lower level Finnish leagues, which then led to him being a pro player agent. And now he's a published author telling that story. So let's go to the interview with Ryan Minkoff now.
So you doing a bunch of these, Ryan? You doing like a little whirlwind tour of podcasts?
I'm definitely doing a handful, but I haven't done a lot so far. I've only done a few. I think I'll be
Right
doing
on.
more probably in the coming weeks, I would imagine.
They're not going to send you on a book tour or something, like a.
I mean,
I guess
wish.
not with the current situation. But,
Yeah, not in the current situation. I don't think I would have gotten that anyways. But I would have done some local things for sure.
Yeah, right on.
Cool. Yeah, I saw you were on NHL Network yesterday with Panger and Jamerson Coyle. So glad you're following up with a good crew here. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
no,
Good.
that's exactly right. I'm open to talk to anybody. So
It's awesome.
Hanger was cool.
Good. Well, so I guess let's get into it. Tell us a little bit about your youth hockey background before college.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting to say the least. I grew up in Minnesota, and my parents were always going to go for hockey games, University of Minnesota. So I was going with them, and I lived in a small town about an hour from the Twin Cities. So that's where I started, just skating outside, and from there I played in one association. It's called Hanover, and that association ended up merging with another association called Buffalo, and that was just an instant like political mess. So I was involved in that through squirts. After squirts, I had enough. I was like the area's probably top player at the time. And from there, I left and I went to a tier 1 team. And it was actually technically in Wisconsin. So my parents would be shuttling me all over the place. It was a tier 1 team. So we were playing teams all over the Midwest and flying around and driving 8 hours to Chicago. And
oh, wow.
so that was a crazy year. It was a really good year too. My coach was Craig Norwich, who played in the NHL, went to Wisconsin. So he was really good to learn from. After that year, the team like disbanded, just didn't continue. So that was unfortunate. And then I had to find another team. I waved in to a team called Tri-Cities, which was like a team made up of 3 cities, obviously. And that team ended up after that year, that team went under. So I had to find another team to start my Bantam years. And I played for a team called Armstrong Cooper. And I stuck there for my 2 years of Bantams. Did really well. And then it was on to high school hockey from there. And yeah, that was a interesting time as well. I don't know if you want me to go right into that or not. But.
Yeah, why not? Tell us about high school hockey in Minnesota.
Well, it's what everybody wants to do from a young age. My parents also had state high school tournament tickets, and we would sit
awesome
like right behind the bench. So those are cool seats, but you also like can't see very well at the same time. You're trying to look over the players, and then the coach gets in the way half the game. So, but I at the same time, like I got a couple sticks from players growing up. It was really cool, and it's like it's the biggest spectacle in terms of high school sports for hockey. That's for sure in the U.S. So, growing up, you kind of always dream of trying to get there. So that was definitely on my radar, and my high school experience, I never got there, and I never got close in terms of personally.
Oh man!
In terms of the team I was on, I had the potential to get there. My school made the state tournament my freshman year, which I was still playing Bantam hockey, and then once I was done, they made it the year after. But yeah, my first year, I came in with, from my Bantam team, 4 other guys who were the other top players on that team, and they all made varsity. I didn't. And that was tough because everything that I was told in the summer, like I was right on track to make that team. But I was going to a private school. It was a big time team, so there's a lot you can't control. So yeah, my first high school season was all JV or junior varsity, and yeah, from there I can't say it really got any easier. My junior year, I was bouncing up and down between JV and varsity. I would play I played most of the varsity games, but I was like the 6th defenseman, so I was getting on the ice like maybe 4 or 5 shifts a game. And then at the same time, I would probably play, I think I played probably half the JV games, but I'd play like only 2 periods because in Minnesota you could play up to 4 periods in a day. Oh. So I'd play like 2 JV, and then I'd get off the ice, and then I'd like go to warm up with the varsity team and play 2 periods. It was ridiculous, but that's what I did that year. And then during all this time, I was doing a lot of summer tournaments. That's really where I was able to get exposure, because I couldn't get it during my seasons. So, and I was on all the top AAA teams and select teams in the summers. So I was getting seen by a lot of scouts, and then they'd come to my regular season and they would be like, "Where, like, this guy's not on the ice, like, what's going on?" So that really hurt me, and that was really tough for me mentally, for sure, because I was just at a loss. I didn't know how to. I wanted to play Division I in college. I couldn't figure out how I was going to get there, because I knew I needed to be seen, but at the same time, I also needed to develop, and I wasn't developing as much as I felt like I could, because I wasn't getting playing time.
Yeah.
So my senior year, I finally came to the realization that I should look at other options, and I ended up leaving my high school team. I still stayed at the same high school for school, but I played with a junior hockey team locally, and it was Tier 3 juniors. It wasn't, we weren't a very good team, but it was really good for me mentally and just to develop. I was playing against older guys, and we were playing more games, and I was playing a ton, and I could just kind of go out and really try to make an impact on the game. And if I messed up, I knew I'd have a chance of going back on the ice and continuing. That was really key for me at that time. So that's kind of when my career started to take off, I felt like. And going into my senior year, I had interest from Union College in New York, and initially they were like, we really like you, we're really interested in you potentially coming in here after your senior year. And then that shifted to probably after a couple of years of juniors, when you're 20. I never was interested in playing junior hockey after high school. I was pretty set on going to college, and I didn't want to play Division III. I easily could have, but I didn't want to go to a small school, and I was pretty into exploring, and I wanted to get a big school experience. So if it was Division I, and then I felt like, well, if I'm not going to juniors, I'm not going to be able to get to Division I. It's not going to happen unless I got really lucky and walked on, and that's just doesn't happen. Not to say it can't, but it's really hard. Yeah, so from there it came down to Penn State. They had a really good club team, and they were going to go Division I, which I was basically learning about at the time of my senior year, and but they were still going to be club like the first year I was coming in. So I was like, well, that would be like I'd be joining a really good team. I might make the team, but I might also get cut after 1 year. Right. So it was always in my head. And then I applied to UW, or University of Washington, in Seattle. My mom is from out here, and I applied like the last day I could. I didn't think really much of it. But I knew they had a club team. I didn't know anything about the club team. I didn't know really anything about the West Coast and hockey, because all the teams that we'd play on the West Coast from Minnesota, we'd crush them. So I didn't think very much of it. And but at the same time, I was looking at the schedule, and they're going to California, they're going to Arizona, they're going to Utah.
Nice.
It was cool. So I was like, well, let's do this. Let's see where I can go from there. And yeah, that's what happened.
And it seems like, at least from what you said, like Penn State, you kind of did a little bit of due diligence on that, kind of learning a
Yeah.
little more about the club team. But University of Washington, outside of their travel schedule, did you know a ton?
I tried to do my research there too. There was one player on the team at the time who was from Minnesota, so he called me like midway through my senior year, and I asked him some random questions about the school and learned that they practiced 2 days a week on Monday, Wednesday nights at like 11 p.m. and yeah, he said they got decent crowds for rival games. He was playing it up for sure, but he was helpful. He was going to be a senior my freshman year, and he was a ROTC guy, so he was just a really stand-up guy as I got to know him. But other than that, no, I didn't really know much. I met the coach after I got accepted into the school and had to come out for orientation and whatnot. I met the coach for coffee and seemed like a fine guy. He was kind of scary, and okay. I'll get along just fine, I guess. And I played in a men's league game. I brought my gear out for orientation, and I played in a men's league game that a bunch of the players were playing in, and I was just terrible. I ate like a full large pizza like 2 hours before. And I really was downplaying it in my head. I was like, I'm coming out and playing in this men's league game. Like, I really like I figured, well, this level's got to be brutal. So I'll just go out and skate and it'll be easy. But yeah, I was terrible, and that kind of helped me in a sense going into the season, where I was like, all right, I need to bring it. So that helped me a little bit going in, just being able to acclimate a little bit with the team before getting there for my fall quarter was nice.
Yeah, that's cool. I remember, like, so I played D2 club out here at UMBC, and
yeah,
like I remember going in, I had no idea what it was, right? And also, like, I grew up in Maryland in the DC area, so I imagine my high school hockey experience was way different than yours. But going into it, I had no expectations. I did not have the benefit of any games at that level before, and then like the first game I went in, we were actually away, and I was playing D. I went back to pick up a puck behind the net, and like, playing around here, like, guys aren't that fast and they really aren't that physical. Well, it was another level up, and I go behind the net to pick up the puck and I just get blasted. I have my head down, I go to look up, the guy's right on top of me, lays me out like on my back. Took me like 5 seconds to figure out where I was and like get up and stuff. So I imagine like that shock was pretty similar. For you.
My first game, exhibition game, I was actually really bad too. It was the only game I played defense my whole UW career. So I was a defenseman the whole way up.
Right.
And my first game at UW, and it was an exhibition at Western Washington University, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from Seattle.
Yeah.
And it was a Friday night game, 10 p.m. They actually brought a pretty good crowd, and I remember I wanted number 3, and coach said, "Yeah, you get number 3, like be in jersey, show up to the rink." And there's no number 3, and the only jersey that they had available with a 3 in it was number 83. And the jersey was worn the year before by a senior who was the assistant captain. So the jersey that I wore my first game and really all my freshman year had an A on the jersey. And like,
Not bad.
yeah, we didn't. Yeah, it was good start for me. I didn't anticipate that, but yeah. And I remember I didn't have any breezer covers. Like the jersey bag had 5 breezer covers, and I didn't get any, obviously being a freshman. And so that was a sort of a wake up call. Like, all right, this is not Minnesota. Like, it's not super professional, and
Yeah.
that was something I kind of took right away. Like, I need to fix this. This is not going to continue as my career goes on. So
Yeah.
I did in time. But yeah, my first game, I was terrible. I got walked a couple times and just wasn't moving very well. But after that, I was moved to center. So that fixed a lot of my problems, I'd say.
Wait, they didn't hide you at wing like they did me? They hid me at wing. They put me at right wing.
No, I mean, I played center and wing my freshman year, but it's pretty much center.
Nice.
From there on out, they wanted me to skate. So
you touched on a little bit there how you kind of cleaned it up professionally with the Washington program. What were some of the things you did, or
yeah,
even maybe kind of helped that team along that they carry to till today?
Yeah.
What are some things?
I know one thing that always bugged me my freshman year was I'd walk into the UW bookstore and I wouldn't see anything UW hockey related. There was,
Yeah.
I had known that other schools would carry random club T-shirt or something, but our bookstore, we didn't have anything. So I kind of set out on my own to try to get shirts in the bookstore. And I remember my first time I went in the bookstore and I asked one of the ladies running the desk, and she was like, "Yeah, we don't have UW hockey shirts. I didn't even know we had a team. But if there's consistent interest from fans or people, then yeah, we'll carry it, or we can talk about it." So I kind of took that to heart and devised my own little plan. I started calling up the bookstore every week, and I would just use different voices. Shirts, and they gave me, it was the same spiel every time for the most part, with whoever was working. So I went on with that for probably 6 weeks, and once the start of the new year came around, I ended up calling the director lady again and asking her about UW hockey T-shirts in the bookstore, and she's like, "Yeah, I know we've gotten a handful of calls and some decent interest in it, so we'll put in a little bit of a shipment and we'll get those out in the next month." And I was super pumped about that.
Awesome.
I got plenty of chirps for doing it at my next practices, but that was cool. Later in my career, I helped get new jerseys. The jerseys we had were just heavy and outdated. And my dad, growing up, and for a lot of the summer teams, he worked with this company called Gemini Athletic, and they do a lot of the high school jerseys in Minnesota, and even a lot of NCAA jerseys too. And my dad knew the guy really well there that ran that company, and that helped us get a nice little design of new jerseys. And basically we used fundraising money to help get that done. So that was cool. There was other things I wanted to get done that I didn't. I wanted gold helmets all the time, and I didn't get those. But
What?
yeah, I was always trying to look good out there.
What was the rink situation like for you guys? Like,
Yeah.
does UW have a rink on campus, or
No,
Yeah.
no. So UW played a 15-minute drive away, and yeah, I mean, it worked. Certainly wasn't ideal. We were always just carpooling to practices or games.
Yeah.
But the rink wasn't bad. Actually, I really liked it because it was Olympic size sheet,
Oh, nice.
and that was great for my game, and it's just great for club in general because I really took that. That was a really big advantage for me because I'm one of my biggest strengths was skating. So
Yeah.
and most of the rinks around the West Coast, I would say, were not Olympic size. So we had a home advantage, sort of.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was normal rink. Sat about 1,000 fans. Nothing special.
It's cool. Did you guys pack the place?
Rarely. Like rival games versus Oregon
Sure. Yeah.
were definitely the rowdiest, and we had a couple of games versus UCLA that were sold out. We had football players come and drop the puck for
Nice.
like
Yeah.
ceremony. And
Yeah.
that always brings out fans if you can pull it off.
Yeah.
And yeah, but for the most part, it was fans will show up for the Oregon games. Other than that, we did our best though to ramp that up with fans. We organized shuttle buses from campus to our rink and back.
Oh, nice.
So what we did was we would sell a ticket for like $5 or $10 to come to the game and the bus.
Nice.
So you're basically just paying for the bus and you get to come into our game. And our games were BYOB. So
Awesome.
we and I don't even think the rink had a liquor license. I think they were kind of kept out of the loop of things.
Sure,
What we were
yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
I know it's not really like that today. But we did a good job advertising that to frats and sororities and anybody on campus that was looking for a party. We tried to bring it to our games because they were at 9-10 p.m. at night, and yeah, just bring your 6-pack, come to the game. There's plenty of room to sit and hang out with your friends, and yeah, the games would get pretty rowdy as they go on, and as long as nothing too dumb was going on, it worked out. So.
That's awesome. And what about, travel out west then? I know, like on the East Coast, like you mentioned carpooling like to your home rink. I know we did a lot of carpooling up and down between Maryland and PA and New York and New Jersey, and sometimes up to, Massachusetts and stuff. What was it like for you guys? Like our school like had a bus, but we weren't allowed to use it, or if we did, we had to pay for it because like we weren't varsity, right? So like what did you guys end up doing for travel?
Yeah. So and we got a few grand from the school, so we used that accordingly, but
yeah,
that didn't help us for any travel really. It was all carpooling for the most part. I have a good story about that. I'll tell it a little bit. But we usually take a couple flights.
Oh wow!
And those when we would play USC or UCLA.
Okay.
Play one of them every year usually, and we played Cal. So we were for sure going to California every year. It was a matter of just what city.
Right.
Arizona, we'd fly there and play ASU. That was a amazing road trip. And just just due to the bar scene and just being down there and
Yeah.
great weather. Utah, we'd fly there. That was a miserable trip. It was always cold. The beer was 3.2%. Everything was closed by midnight. It was
Nothing to do.
not good for a club hockey vacation weekend. Yeah, other than that, like we were driving to all the local teams in Washington State, Western Oregon. We'd drive there. It was about a 5-hour drive. Boise, I can tell this story. The Boise is where some players would fly, some would carpool, and this one Boise trip kind of ended the carpooling for our program. Yeah, we had I think 3 or 4 cars going, and then a couple players were flying to Boise. This was my junior year. So we all it's about an 8-hour drive, so it's not a short one. And one of the cars, like 3 or 4 hours in, they ended up flipping. Flipped the car. It was insane, but everybody lived. And nobody had any injuries.
Wow.
Thank the Lord.
Yeah. So as a result of that, one of the players that was flying, his bag was on the car, so he didn't go on the trip. Obviously, those 4 didn't come on the trip. Our roster that season, we had like 14 or 15 guys total, and we already had a couple of guys that just weren't coming. So we got to the games in Boise. We had eight guys. These 2 games, and our backup goalie, our starter, went to Vegas for his 21 run instead. So we were limping in, and we lost 15-1 our first game.
Oh,
And yeah, it was just brutal showing. And the second game, we didn't even finish. It ended like we just called the game in the second intermission because we had a couple guys injured and we were down to 5 guys, and it was just
Oh my gosh.
this is insane. We were only down, I think it was 5-0 or 5-1. So it wasn't all things considered, it wasn't that bad.
It's not 15-0.
Yeah, I mean, and like I probably played 35 minutes of the 40.
Ugh.
So it's just like I'm just gliding around. I had nothing left. So we get out of there, we leave on Sunday, start driving back, and I'm in this pretty old car. I think it was, I'm trying to remember what it was, but it was old, and it broke down about 2.5 hours outside of Seattle on the legit highway, and pull off to the side of the road. He doesn't know what to do, and I'm in the car with 2 other guys, and we're like, all right, what are we gonna do? The other cars had already passed us, and they're not turning around. They don't have room for us anyways with all our bags and things we had.
Yeah.
So we were just like, well, I guess we can hitchhike or try. So we got out of the car, and we're doing the thumbs up, and we're doing the honk the horn thing to semis, and we're just kind of messing around on the shoulder. Thankfully, it was a pretty big shoulder that we had space, but yeah, we stood out there for, I don't know, 20-30 minutes, and we just got lucky. A Vietnam War vet pulled over and brought us to Seattle. He was on his way to his nephew's football game, and he brought us back to Seattle. So that was a incredible trip, to say the least. But yeah, as a result of all that, There is no carpooling anymore. It's always
Yeah.
ordering vans through the school or through a rental service or bus, obviously.
You mentioned some of the rivalries, and one thing that I remember, so playing at a school in Baltimore, at that time we were in a I don't know, a division or a conference. I forget
Yep.
what it was called at the time. That it was like us and Hopkins and Loyola, and there were probably half a dozen schools all within like an hour's drive of us. So there were some
Mhm.
pretty intense rivalries. Like we'd go play at Hopkins, and they would actually bus vans in, do that whole thing too.
Yeah.
And during warm-ups, they were like throwing pennies on the ice and batteries and stuff like at us. Like I don't know if you experience any of that type of like fan rivalry stuff, but I was just wondering if you did.
Yeah, I would say nothing really to that extent. I know we'd have home games versus Oregon, and some of the Oregon guys, if they get penalties, they'd go into the box, and fans would be harassing them and bang on the glass, and
Nice.
they were pretty much they were good for somebody getting kicked out of the game for mouthing off to fans or doing something with them that they shouldn't have been doing.
Yeah.
So I know our fans did a good job of that. I don't know what exactly they were saying or doing, but from my end, nothing too crazy besides just people yelling at you during the national anthem or little things. But yeah, nothing too out of the blue, I would say, with our rivals.
So that just means no one from Philly goes to the West Coast, pretty much. I think
go
we
to
can
school.
say
Yeah.
that. we can establish that right now.
That could be, yeah. Maybe they're a little tamer. I don't know. Not every rink had BYOB, so I think
that's true.
we use that to our advantage.
Nice.
Good. So Ryan, do you want to skip a little bit to your senior year and kind of how your overseas venture started? Kind of what was going on that season? Were you kind of looking at the next level as you were about to graduate and whatnot, and your hockey career there?
Yeah. So going into my senior year, I knew I'd be good enough to go pro. How I would get to that level, I had no clue. I didn't even think about agents. I didn't think about really any of it. I just kind of had a feeling that, well, I'll figure it out. Like I'll get there somehow. But I really didn't know anything. I knew players that had gone to Europe just from being in Minnesota and training with them in past summers, but I didn't know how they got out there, and they were much higher caliber players. They were guys coming from the AHL or really good NCAA programs. So I was like, well, like it's way different than I am. But yeah, through my senior year, I didn't really explore it. I wasn't reaching out to teams. I wasn't doing anything. I got to Finland through Facebook message, essentially. I was on spring break in Mexico my senior year with a teammate and his family, just kind of hitting the clubs and hanging on the beach. And I got this Facebook friend request from a guy in Finland. Didn't know who it was. Didn't think anything of it. So I deleted it. And then the next morning I wake up and he had sent me another friend request. So I was like, okay, that's odd. I haven't experienced that.
He's persistent.
So yeah, I was just like, well, something's going on here. I'll just accept it and I don't know, see what happens. And then he sends me this nice little message. He's the team manager in Finland, and they were interested in potentially working something out to get me over there for the next season. So that's where it all started. And yeah, took a month and a half of conversing to get something done. I did have one little connection to the town. During my senior year when I was playing junior hockey, there was a Finnish player from that same town. So there was a little bit like that team probably had me on the radar at that point, and I was one of the top players on that team, and so that helped probably get me on the radar somewhat. But they also had a club player on the team a few years prior that had done pretty well, so I think that was in my favor. They saw my stats and probably were like, "Geez, this guy's got to be incredible." So yeah, it worked out. But yeah, my senior year, I didn't know anything. I didn't know how to get out there.
And you negotiated your own contract. Was that like through a series of phone calls or all Facebook Messenger or what? Go through that a little bit if you don't mind.
Yeah, so that was I sent some messages back and forth with the manager. I talked to the old club player that had played there. He said fine things about it. I had known one other player who went to Utah State who was playing in Germany, and I connected with him just to ask him about European hockey, his experience. He was playing at the lower levels also. So he gave me a little bit of advice, but for the most part, I just asked a lot of questions. I was very naive about the situation, and I was also lucky that they were very interested in having me. Like looking back, some of the things I asked, I don't know. Now that I do this stuff as a job, I'm like, geez, I don't know. Questionable questions that I asked. But it worked out because the team was really interested in me. They wanted to get something done, and yeah, I did as much research as I could. I talked to the coach. He didn't speak English that well, but I kind of got the gist of he wanted somebody that could put up points and score. And okay, sounds good. I'll do my best. But yeah, it was just I took my time. I tried to make sure I could get the best deal I could. I wasn't. I didn't have any money coming out of college, so I wanted to make sure I could survive over there. And yeah, I wanted to be involved in the community. I wanted to have things to do. I wanted to try to save money on meals, so I put everything I could in that contract before I got out there.
So you go from Minnesota high school hockey, you go to, college club. There's a culture shock there. Now you're going to, European pros in Finland,
Yep.
of all places, right? Like what is the culture shock there? Like when you get into the country and now you have to live there and make your own way there and play hockey and do all this kind of stuff. And I gather you're probably the only American or one of few Americans that are in the town, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
what is that like, as the minority American now in small town Finland playing for the local team?
Yeah, it was so I was there. My town was 15,000 people roughly, 4 hours north of Helsinki. So yeah, it was small. It was, I grew up in a small town in Minnesota, so that would kind of reminded me a little bit of it. But yeah, we had my team, we had a women's Finnish baseball team, and there was a pro basketball team that had a couple Americans on the team.
Okay.
So yeah, there was probably 4 or 5 total Americans in the town. And the basketball team was kind of always on the road, and
right.
I didn't get to interact with them too much. I did a little bit, that was really cool for me. But yeah, there wasn't a lot going on, that's for sure. I mean, there was only a couple bars, and there was one club. It was only open for 2 or 3 months of the year total. So yeah, in terms of the living there, it was very simple life, and took me about a week to really get over the jet lag. I was the only American on the team. I lived with a Latvian kid who spoke English, thankfully, spoke Russian, spoke Latvian. He was a really good guy to live with. I learned a lot from him. We got along really well. Most of my teammates couldn't speak English. Most could understand it. It was just an extent of how much can they speak. I would say outside of 4 or 5 guys, I could really only say, like, "Hey, what's up? How's it going? Good, good." And then that's it. Convo end. And so that was the biggest challenge I had out there, was just trying to interact. And at the same time, I didn't learn Finnish very well. I didn't put a lot of time into it.
Sure. Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
I learned enough to get by and order food and do little things, but I think that would have helped me a little bit more looking back.
Yeah.
Just try to acclimate and get to know more people.
What was the hockey like? Like, was it
Yeah.
a step up, a step down, a lateral move
Mhm.
from ACHA,
Yeah, so
or
it was definitely better. It was something that I really welcomed early on. I was so used to club. Yeah, I really relied on my only a couple players,
right?
and I knew I didn't really have to do that in Finland. I had good players around me, and that was just nice. And that's not to knock the players I played with in club, because there was a couple of guys that I played really, really well with.
Right.
And guys that I thought on my team that, like, they easily could have played Division 3 or
Yeah.
definitely played at higher levels. So playing in Finland was really, really cool for me early on. It was just nice to be in a professional setting.
Yeah.
Getting on a bus, going to a game, you get there 2 or so hours early. You're doing a nice warm up. You're in nice gear.
Yeah.
It was just nice to be back in that setting. I just remember that was a very welcomed feeling. But in terms of the hockey, I really liked it. It was very it was systematic, but you're really it's free flowing. You're not just skating in straight lines and dumping the puck in. My team, we did not dump the puck in.
That's awesome.
There were guys on my team that literally didn't dump the puck all season, like never.
That's
It would
awesome.
be you're circling in the zone, and you're going to try to break the puck up the ice,
Yeah.
and if you can't get through the middle of the ice or make a pass to get through the middle of the ice, you're going to circle the puck back, and you're going to try it again. And that took me some time to grasp too. I wasn't used to playing like that, so that took some adjustment, but I really liked that. I liked having possession of the puck. I didn't really dump the puck much either in college, but it was a different style of play, and yeah, I really liked it. It was just nice. It's a very skilled game over there, so that fit in pretty well, I thought, with me. But yeah, it was a good start, and then things kind of went haywire, I would say, a little bit after that as the season went on.
Yeah, I think I saw that you started as first line, and then you went down to third and fourth line minutes, but you still finished third on the team in scoring.
Yeah,
Or
it
tied?
was. Yeah, me and the Latvian guy, our situations were very similar in terms of ice time and just how things were going. His contract was not nearly what mine was, and we can talk about that later, but our playing time just gradually diminished as the year went on. It's hard to know exactly why, but we just really battled through it. It was mentally very difficult, and it drove my roommate almost insane. It seemed like, but and he was a defenseman, so that also like sort of helped us in bonding too really well because we were
Right.
kind of on the same page. We're the only two foreign players on this team. But yeah, it was just I don't know if the coach really liked us. I know the board really liked us, and they wanted us there. They were happy to have us in town. Just seemed like to us we were kind of stuck in the middle between coach's thoughts and management's thoughts. So yeah, that was interesting, and it was good learning experience. But yeah, I mean, at the same time, I knew if I wanted to keep playing and just to have a good experience overall, I knew I needed to put up points. I needed to do everything I could. So I tried, and yeah, playing third and fourth line, it really pissed me off. Maybe that was part of the coach's plan. I don't know.
Well, he still got his points out of you, right? So
I mean, sorta. I feel I could have given him a lot more, but
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I was put in a kind of grinded out type role,
Mhm.
and I mean, I did it. Is what it is. I made the most of it. That was kind of my thing, really all along with Finland. Like I really went into it with an attitude of like I'm gonna make the most of this, however it goes.
That's awesome.
I know, like in November, when it was really getting tough to deal with, I met with one of the managers, and asked them if they'd consider trading me because I'm not playing. Like I came out here to play, and like I was scratched. Me and my roommate were scratched the home opener.
Oh.
And that was just like, geez, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like you got two imports, and like the sponsors are like, they brought us here, and you're literally not playing us. First game was. So we kind of knew off the bat, all right, something's going on here. But yeah, the manager was just like, we want you here. You're making a big impact being here just by being in the town and being involved in the community and doing. I was volunteering in the schools, and I was helping out with the youth hockey team, coaching, and I drove the Zamboni here and there. I had never driven a Zamboni before in my life. So that was really a good experience. And yeah, just doing odd jobs around the town, really trying to immerse myself. So that the management, like, they really liked that, and
yeah,
they kind of said like, hey, the coach is gonna make the calls of what's going on the ice, but yeah, we want you here. So it's like, okay, well, I want to play, but all right.
It is nice though to see, like, especially as you look back on it now, like, even though the hockey situation wasn't the best, a lot of people in that situation probably would have packed it up and
Yeah.
kind of gone. But you even said, you touched on it. I'm going to make the most of the situation. I'm going to get involved in the community, and almost kind of, management liked it after the fact. I mean, you kind of did it, it seems,
Mhm.
on your own, just to kind of get away from the rink to some extent.
Yep.
But also, it wasn't just a hockey experience; it was a life experience for you. So.
Yeah, for sure. I give some credit to my parents too. I definitely complained probably plenty to them. They gave me some wise words, I guess. But yeah, it was as the season went on, and I mean, all of February, I think I played like only 2 games all of February. I was scratched like basically the whole month, and then first round of playoffs, it was a best of 3, and then it was going to go to best of 5, and then best of 5 for the remaining rounds. First 2 games, scratched, and I was like, I was losing my mind. Then it was game 3. The series was 1-1, and coach put me in for game 3, and I was like, I was mad, because I felt like he knows he needs to win, and that's why he's putting me in now.
Yeah.
And he came up to me before the game and just was like, "Hey, like, let's go." And I was like, "Okay." I made sure to keep everything to myself, but yeah, I scored the first goal of game 3, and we won and moved on, and then we lost the next round, and I only played 1 game of that series. Played the first game and was done. But we had a 3rd place game after that. I don't know why they had a 3rd place, but they did. And yes, I had a couple of points in that game, and I scored on my last shift, like ever. So
nice.
It was like that. Doing that was really the icing. Like I stuck it out, and it ended on a positive note in terms of on the ice. And yeah, it was a lot big mental battle, but made me better in the end. So
that's great. So you mentioned it a little bit earlier about helping out your roommate with his deal, and I think that story goes that kind of leads you into the path that you're on now in your career. But how did you help him, and how did that all start?
Yeah, so like I said, like I got out there, met him. We were living in the same apartment, and I had 2 sponsored meals at this restaurant in town. So it was going to save me a lot of money on food. And he didn't have that same exact deal with the sponsor at this restaurant. So I found that right away, just going to eat with him. And that's how I started to learn about his contract, and his salary was just non-existent in comparison to mine. And I was doing the extra coaching and making a little bit of money from that, and he wasn't even involved in that to start. And I had the Zamboni job that was going to make me even more money. He didn't have anything like that. So it was just like, this is just, I need to do something. I felt like it was kind of my duty to help him. Like, he didn't have an agent. He had an old friend that played on this team a couple of years prior who had a fine experience, and that's kind of what got him into the team. But he didn't ask a lot of questions. He just kind of accepted what they said, and I can't blame him for doing that. Looking back, it's like it's hard to get spots and it's hard to get onto teams.
Right. Yeah.
And if he asked a question and they didn't like the question, they could have just stopped talking to him. And
Yeah.
that's just something I didn't think about when I was doing my deal.
Yeah.
Looking back, it's like, wow, I'm surprised I didn't think like that at all. But yeah, so the first month I helped him with management and got the meal deal for him, and he got involved with the coaching and made some extra money with me doing that. And we did some random odd jobs around town too, just with random sponsors. And so yeah, I wanted to help him just to be able to live a little better.
Yeah.
And that's what got me into it initially. And we had payment problems as the season went on, just getting paid late. And when we were having playing time issues, we just kind of wanted to know what was out there in the market. When I did my Finland deal, I didn't know anything about really other countries.
Right.
Like, could I have gone to other countries? I don't know. Looking back, yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really know it. And my roommate, he was only 20 at the time. He didn't have a lot of experience at the pro level either, so he didn't know a lot. So that's what got me I was learning a lot about the leagues, and I talked to a couple agents, and they just didn't really have any time for me. I wasn't making a lot of money, and I don't know, there was nothing in it for them. So
yeah.
that's kind of what I saw. And as I was learning more and more as my season went on, I learned like there's a lot of guys. They might not be at my level. They're going to be at higher levels, but there's a lot of guys that are having issues, and
Yeah.
that probably need some decent help. So after my season, I was going to keep playing, and I was going to keep playing for a couple of reasons. One, I didn't want to live in small towns like I was in moving forward, and I had a couple concussions in the past, and that just always weighed on my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but my roommate was going to keep playing, so I just told him like, "Hey, man, I'll help you get a decent deal next year, and I can come visit you, and we'll have a great time."
Nice.
So that's how it started, and I helped his older brother, and helped some other Finnish kids. Yeah, and then it just kind of started snowballing. I helped some of their friends and started getting random messages. So
Hey, word of mouth, man. That's how it works.
Yeah.
So that kind of, I mean, was that all European market teams, or were you helping them get to North America then too? Because I know, like, when we were looking at, your company's website, you have a laundry list of different guys, both Europeans and North Americans, that have kind of gone both directions, right? So how did all that expand, and are there any are there any key moments sort of in that path?
So when I started, it was for sure all Europe.
Right.
I wanted to stay involved in the game some way, and I liked living in Europe.
Yeah.
I liked traveling around, and I did some travels during Christmas time, and after my season, it was amazing. So I felt like, well, this agency that can keep me involved in the game, and I don't know, see where it goes.
Yeah.
I really didn't know. So for sure, when I started, it was all about the European market, and I was helping Europeans in Europe. It was also, as time went on, after my first year of doing it, I started getting North Americans my second year that wanted to go to Europe. So that was sort of a transformative time. I worked with Zach Hamill going into my second year. He was a big name guy. That really helped me, I would say.
Right.
Just get a little bit more credibility.
Yeah.
I helped another guy named Jeff Walker, and he was a Canadian, played in the Q and in the AHL, and I got him into a really, really good league in Austria,
Yeah.
and that helped a little bit. Just building up credibility. Like I can get a guy into a good league. That was pretty much it.
Yeah.
So the first couple of years for sure was all Europe, but after that it was because I had a decent amount of European players. A lot of European guys, they want to come to North America, so it was just kind of a natural transition with my business. That I need to help these guys get over here.
Yeah.
And me being American, it's easy.
Yeah.
I speak the language. I just from playing the game for so long, it's easy to connect with these teams and GMs and coaches.
Yeah.
So that was an easy progression. It was really I just need to work on my networking and start talking to everybody I can. But yeah, it's cool to see where the business has gone. I mean, now I really work both markets, from the NHL to the top leagues in Europe. It's really cool to see where it's gone. I help a lot of Latvian players, and that's just all stemmed from that's where it started. So I've always going to have that. They're always going to be important players for me, and those are my best players too, for the most part. I've got some good younger North Americans too that are coming up, but my Latvian guys they mean a lot, and I signed one guy. His name is Harold's Eagle. He's on a 2-year AHL deal in Manitoba.
Nice.
No clue if they're actually going to play this year, but that was a cool experience for me with him this last year. He went to Clarkson, and
Oh wow, yeah.
he was one of their top players.
Yeah.
So that was just a cool time for me I was talking to all kinds of scouts and assistant GMs and whatnot. So yeah, I definitely have a lot of experience that I've built up, and it's just going to keep growing, and I'm going to keep building. And yeah, all my players, the whole idea is I just want them to reach their goals, whatever they are. Some guys, yeah, they want to get to the NHL. Well, okay, I'm going to do everything I can to get them there.
Yeah.
Other guys, they're North American and they want to go to Europe. So I'll do everything I can to get them there. And other players, they're in Europe and they want to try to get to North America, and I'll help them that way. So it's really turned into just whatever the player wants, I can do it.
So now, Ryan, do you think as an agent, it's easier because you've lived part of that life where you didn't have a favorable contract, you weren't an agent, and then also you can look at it from a business side as you've negotiated X amount of contracts in both continents now, but also at the same time, you still have kind of a player mentality since you're so fresh to your playing days?
Yeah. I would say what helps me the most is just especially with Europe is, yeah, I played over there. Like, I know how all these teams operate. I know what a lot of the players are dealing with when they're not getting paid on time, or have housing problems, or it's really easy to empathize and understand what they're going through, because I went through a decent amount myself. So that definitely helps. And in North America, my youth experience, because I was bouncing around so much, it resonates a lot with players, that any player that gets in some kind of political battle for playing time, especially at the high school age, and when you're really trying to get recruited, and you're searching for that opportunity for exposure. I have experience with that myself when I played, so that helps me a lot. But yeah, really in the end, it's just about being open and willing to listen, and you're trying to help them any way you can. Some guys, they are really flourishing, and you want them to continue and really try to get more on the radar of certain teams that they're interested in the future. Or other guys, they're on teams and they're really struggling, and you're trying to figure out how to help them. It's almost a psychological time where you're just trying to be really positive, and
Yeah.
you also at the same time, if they are really struggling, you're like, well, so we can look at other options. Where would you be interested in potentially going?
Right.
It's okay to struggle. You can drop down a level as long as you get playing time. You'll get back up, and you can get that exposure. It's just about being open to options. I think is really important for youth players and players at the pro level, wherever they are.
That's awesome. Can you come talk to like the kids that I coach? Because actually the parents, because I think they all need to hear some of that. It's not a linear path, right? All the time. A lot of times
I mean,
it's ups and downs,
it's
right?
I think part of the big message of my book, at least one of them, is you can take an unconventional path to get a long way. You don't have to go the normal route. It's okay to go a route that is maybe looked down upon, or maybe it's a route that you just don't see many players being successful. But
Mm-hmm.
if you believe and you stay true to what your goals are, and you stay focused, you can get there. That was the big key for me mentally through all the levels I was at, like high school. When I wasn't playing, I still kept the goal. Like I want to get to Division 1. So even though I'm not playing, like I need to keep developing in practice. I thankfully was at a really good program, so in practice I was playing against really good players. A handful that went Division 1 or at least Division 3.
Right.
So I at least had that to keep me at a decent level. And then the summer I knew, like this is my shot. Like this is the only time I'm going to get exposure.
Right.
And I tried to make the most of that. And then, when I went to club, it was that level in it as a whole. It's all on you.
Yes, it is.
Club, you're running the players are running the team.
Yeah.
I was the president of the team for 2 years, and like I was helping make the schedule, and I'm running the budget. I'm running fundraising. You're doing all sorts of things. So the club level it's all what you make of it. You can slough off and not care, which is what plenty of guys do, and there's plenty that don't. But that was something always in my head, that it was just like, if I stay focused, I know I can get to the next level. And I had little things that happened to me while I was at UW that kind of reassured me a little bit. My freshman or summer after my freshman year, was training in Minnesota at this place called First Athlete, and a lot of the guys went there were NHL players, or they're in the AHL or NCAA,
Yeah.
big time programs, and I'm playing club, and I'm somehow in this same thing just due to age. And I'd be sitting in the locker room, and I'm just like looking around in awe, like my bag does not belong in this locker room. But I was still skating, and I was doing okay out there. Certainly, I wasn't a top player, but I was doing fine. And one day, I was sitting next to Marty Sertich was his name, and he won the Hobie Baker at Colorado College, played in the AHL, and
It's not
was
bad.
playing in Switzerland at the time. Yeah. And he took a little bit of interest in me and started asking me questions about, like, why am I playing club? Like, how did you get there? All sorts of things. And
Right.
he kind of said to me, like, hey man, like, if you keep working, you can get to Europe. So I really, when he said that, I was like, wow, okay. And then after my sophomore year, I was 20. I just turned 20. And the Everett Silvertip GM called my dad and invited me to training camp. So that was like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. Obviously I'm 20. There's no way I'm gonna make the team, probably. There's no way I'm gonna play on it anyways. But it was nice to get that. And actually I didn't even know if I was gonna get to go, because I called my dad, told me, like, come to camp, he'll be in touch, but he was never in touch all summer. So I was freaking out. Thankfully, I played men's league that summer with Mitch Love, who was the assistant coach of the Silvertips at the time.
Nice.
He's now the head coach in Saskatoon. He's with the World Junior team with Canada now. He's big time.
Yeah.
But he was on my men's league team, and I was like a week or two away from camp, and I was just like, hey, I think I can, like, come to camp. I told my dad, and I haven't heard anything. And he at first he was like, well, you're 20. Like, I don't know why. I'm not sure we'd waste time. But he eventually called me and said, hey, we got a spot at camp. We'd like you to come. You can come to our returning only player skate to
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
get acclimated. And
Yeah.
I did that. That was sweet, because, like, I'm going in with all these guys that have been playing on team like 2-3 years.
Yeah.
And I'm showing up. So now they're like, oh, this guy, like, must be on the team. So that was like that was really nice that he let me come to that. But I had a really pretty good camp, and I actually didn't get to finish the camp because of UW hockey fundraising. So this was a crazy week. Same week, UW, we were running a Boeing Classic golf tournament fundraiser. Like, we're running concession stands.
Yeah.
We'll make a couple of grand for the team. It's pretty important.
Yeah.
So I was literally going to my training camp with the Silvertips, and then I'd get off the ice and I'd go work a concession stand for like 6 hours or however long my shift was, eat hot dogs and a bunch of junk, and then I'd go back the next day and go to camp. It was like the whole week. It was insane. Get to Sunday, my team is 3-0. We're playing in the championship game of all these scrimmages.
Yeah.
And my game is at 8 a.m. Sunday, obviously, it's the last day of the golf tournament. I'm getting my gear on like 15 minutes away from going on the ice. Warm-ups. I get a call from the Boeing Classic, and they're like, "Hey, there's not enough volunteers here from your team."
Oh.
I'm like, okay. So I start calling all the guys that were supposed to show up for their shift at 8 a.m. They're not answering the phone, obviously, like sleeping in, hungover, who
Yeah.
knows? So I was losing my mind. I was like, what am I going to do right now? Like, I'm about to go on the ice. I know that if I don't show up to this golf tournament and try to save these shifts somehow, that maybe, well, I guess we just won't get the money. I don't know what was going to happen. And then my coach called me and was like, "Hey, Ryan, you got to go to the Boeing Classic and fix this." I was like, okay. So yeah, like 2 minutes before I'm supposed to go on the ice, I go out out of the locker room and I find Mitch Love, and I'm just like, "Hey, I can't, I gotta leave camp. I gotta take care of this golf tournament fundraiser." And he was just like, "All right, thanks, man. Like, totally get it. You had a good solid camp. We thought you did well, and thanked me for coming out." And and my team goes on the ice for warm-ups, and I'm like changing, running out the door to drive to this golf tournament. I was so mad because going to a training camp, it was like this is a cool experience. It's not something that I necessarily expected to happen, but at the same time, when I went to UW, I was like, there's WHL teams out here. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll watch. Maybe I can come to camp. So it was really cool that opportunity actually happened. So not being able to finish it really frosted me. And of course my team ended up winning, and I would have been in the paper. I missed it. So yeah, I was really mad about that, but yeah, I mean, we got the $2,000 or so from the fundraiser, so that was a positive. But I was pissed at my teammates.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, you mentioned the book came out November 1st, I think. Thin Ice. It's basically your memoir, I guess, telling this whole story, which is awesome. I guess my question with the book was like, when did you start writing that? Like when did you decide like, okay, I've got something, right? Because you're kind of a young guy still, so it's a great story, obviously, and it deserves to be published. But when do you decide in your career, like, I got to start writing stuff down and write this thing,
Yeah, so I actually started writing going into my senior year, summer before, at UW. And I just started writing because I was reminiscing. I felt like my career was probably ending soon. And when that happens, you start thinking a lot. You start reminiscing back to things you were doing growing up. And at the time, I always enjoyed reading sports autobiographies, and they were always inspiring to me. So I think that fueled me a little bit to start writing things down. It was more about just getting my thoughts out there, more as like a therapeutic type thing.
Yeah.
And I started writing that summer, and I had about 100 pages of just things about my youth hockey career and random things that happened while I was at UW. And I sort of kept that going during my senior year. Would write every few weeks if something of note happened. And then when I got the Finland deal, I kind of knew, all right, like my youth and high school experience was relatively unique, especially for Minnesota. And me now going from club to pro in Finland, like, okay, doesn't happen too often either. So I felt like I had a unique story. When I got out to Finland, it was more of a diary. I was writing every week, and I had plenty of time to do so. So after Finland, I was up to about 240 pages, and I was just like, well, just pretty impressive. I should try to do something with it. And then it took me 2.5 years to get a publisher. That was, I sent so many book proposals out.
Yeah.
I was getting so many rejections. It was crazy, but I believed in my story, and I wasn't going to stop until somebody took it. So
Yeah.
Now you're what, the number 9 hockey autobiography on Amazon?
Right
Yeah.
now, yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Climbing up the ranks.
After once I got the publisher, it was just a few years of editing and really trying to refine the story, and that was a process in itself too. Just I wasn't an amazing writer. I thought I was good at writing papers in high school and college, but I wasn't like super interested in it. But I really learned the writing process. I learned from my editors how to really try to paint a picture and make things interesting, not just tell the story. You got to show it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a lot of learning, and a lot of time sitting in a coffee shop staring at a paragraph, and you're just like, I don't know how to fix this. I know I need to fix this, but I don't know how I'm going to do it. But yeah, it was 7 years in total, I guess, from college to now to get it out. So it's been a journey for sure.
Yeah. It's almost like a hockey career.
Yeah.
Well, again, Ryan, thanks so much for coming on with us tonight. We probably spent way too much of your time, but
no worries. All good.
But again, it's some story, especially from a guy that played Club 2, albeit like 20 years ago. The whole story of the Facebook message leading to European pros and now being a player agent and an author. I think it's really awesome. So thanks again.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I got a long way to go, but yeah, I'm on the right track, I think.
Definitely.
Thank you again.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man.
Thanks so much.
My pleasure.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and follow on your favorite podcatchers. And next time you're having beers in the lot, remember our podcast. Tell your teammates, tell your friends. Thanks a lot.